9-7. You can't, lose 7 games anymore and still win 9.
Nice math.
So I'm going to go under as well because I got him at 9-8.
I just saw the gears turning in his head. He's like,
no, I was just giving you a dramatic pause right there.
Speaking of getting the party started. Yeah. I'm in a race with time. I put my life on the record, always giving it effort at night. I'm always restless, this music's a life sentence. Perfecting my craft in seconds, the essences of the earth. Used to make the world turn, people earn was not deserved. While the weak get knocked down, got people losing their health. This evil's making me mad, I hope I make my father proud. Devote my life to writing raps, I hope I'm on the right path. Spending years of my life that I could never take back. So nod your head to the beat, if you ever had a dream. And everybody else around you just never seemed to believe. That sound exactly like me, I was right in your position. So listen close what I'm saying, don't ever give up your visions on the real. At the start, people doubted I would make it this far, but I'm proving them wrong. Everybody criticized and they hated on me, but I just stay strong. And no matter what I heard them tell me, it didn't change my mind. I'm still pushing on, breaking hearts. I'm in a race with time.
It's time for another episode of the Gridiron Podcast. It is episode 11. I'm Nick Shook. That is Katie Caldwell, back from her journey across Canada where she took in a lot of laughs and got a little vacation time. And then, of course, we have Sean Barie down there, the man with the golden pipes, or more affectionately known in his workplace as Just Pipes. How are we doing?
As Just Pipes. I'm good.
What a beautiful nickname.
Love it.
Episode 11 is actually more special than episode 10, perhaps. We are continuing our division by division preview. Well, there's a reason for that, Sean. We're going to get to that in a second. Our division by division previews. Last week we did the AFC North. We've already wrapped up the entire NFC, and this week we're moving on to the AFC East. And who better than to bring into the show than one of my favorite people in the industry, one of the best people I've ever met in this career, who also happens to be somebody who hired me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. NFL.com's, and more importantly, NFL Network's and NFL Plus's, Gregg Rosenthal. Welcome, Gregg.
Thank you. You're bearing the lead, though. How are you going to call Sean Pipes here when you're the pipe on the Around the NFL podcast?
Great question.
This is I was serving it up for you there, and you just hit the home run.
Thank you. I feel...
Hey, I didn't name myself that, by the way. I did not choose that nickname.
Yeah, I feel like... You guys are all in way better shape than I am. I don't like this podcast.
I was laughing, Greg, on the Around the NFL podcast. You guys were talking about the gridiron. You said, Nick, you're a big guy. I don't know about your co-hosts. And I text the group and I said, I'm not a big guy.
I thought it was potentially pumping iron, and so that maybe there's more F1 listeners in that.
Yeah, well, this is, as Greg just alluded to, this is the Gridiron Podcast, where the grid is Formula One and the gridiron is football. And if we add pumping in there, like Greg said, then it'll be weightlifting. And then if we can continue adding to the title, and eventually we'll just cover everything, lose our audience, and drift into the abyss. We kind of already are, but we won't cover that right now. Greg, before we get into the football side of it, how attuned are you to the world of Formula One?
Very little. My son is a big NASCAR fan, and he's a minor F1 fan. And from the beginning, I've been trying to steer him more to F1 because I figured I could get more into that with him. But I have a very casual appreciation for it. But I'm hoping he still transitions, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think he's going to be NASCAR for life, too.
How did he get into NASCAR?
I don't know. He's like, kids like cars, but he really likes sports. I mean, he loves football too, but I know a lot about NASCAR because of him.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe we'll bring you back in a few years as our NASCAR expert. You'll just be, you already do, you get your whole comedy podcast with Anthony Jeselnik. You could just be a man of every ability. You already do a million different things. So just add it to the repertoire.
F1, I got to start listening more regularly though, because I'm into it. I like the idea of it. What I know, I find compelling.
All right. Well, as for the things that we know you know extremely well, it is football, and training camp has started. We're almost done with our previews, and we've left one of the best divisions for last, and we left it for you, who has a rooting interest in the division and can give us expert insight on every team. with the AFC East. And Sean is going to take over from here because I don't know if you know this, but you're now beholden to the Sean Barie Sportsbook. So step on in, get comfortable, even though we're not allowed to step in sports books. But, step onto this virtual sports book, which has no actual, bearing
this is
in
just
the real world.
To stop Nick stammering. This is an imaginary sports book where the points, the spreads, they are made up. They are just come through, my noggin on any given day. I look at the schedules and I go, okay, I can see this team winning this many games. That's where these numbers come from. So there's no scientific formula to this whatsoever. Do I know more than Vegas? I'm not going to say that, but I mean, who knows? So what we're going to do is we're going to go team by team. I'm going to read their schedule, and then we're just going to go around the room and say, are they going to be over or under this win total? And we'll discuss, and hijinks will ensue. Before we do that, and we're going to start off with the Buffalo Bills. Before we do that, Greg, I did want to get your take on a tweet that I read recently. And if I can bring it up, the author, it's actually you.
Oh, okay.
It is actually you. And because I'm based out of Tampa Bay, I wanted to know your thoughts on your recent tweet that you can't remember a quarterback battle that has gotten less attention than Baker v. Trask. I agree, but being that I have to be at training camp tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, why should people actually pay attention to this quarterback battle? Or, I mean, quite honestly, why shouldn't they?
Well, because the winner might actually be starting at quarterback for a team that has a chance to win the division, which is pretty surprising considering how bad the quarterback situation is. Like they're throwing to two really good receivers, potentially a really good defense. And then more importantly, I am just hoping they're biding time for John Wolford to step in there because I'm a member of the Wolf Pack, and I feel like he's got a chance.
I like
John
it.
Wolford.
Hey, they need
Wolford.
You can dress 3 QBs now, Nick. Why not have John Wolford on the team?
Well, we got Mark Sessler's part of the David Blau group, Blauer Hour as I like to refer to it, and you got John Wolford with Greg. So now all we need is Dan to pick on a backup quarterback that nobody cares about.
Who's winning, by the way? How did Baker look? Okay, Sean, what's going on? And you're right, the Pipes is the right.
Thank you.
Nickname
I appreciate
here.
that. Thank you.
I like very Siciliano-esque. I feel like right now.
Thank you. I'm gonna frame this or just save this clip. It's been, and granted, I've been on vacation the last 5 days, but from what I've seen, it's been kind of up or down. Trask has a good day, then Baker has a bad one. Baker has a good day, then Trask has a bad one. So everyone down here thinks Baker is QB1 already, that he has already been decided, and that may well be, but at the same time, Trask is putting up a fight in camp, and from my point of view, it still looks like a competition, even if Baker is the guy, because that's who they brought in free agency. It does look like a competition because Trask doesn't look, that much worse than Baker. Baker doesn't look head and shoulders above Trask.
All right, well, let's
enough Tampa Bay.
move on.
All right, to the Buffalo Bills. Starting off in week 1 on the road, taking on the Jets. Week 2, they are at home against Vegas, back on the road against Washington. Weeks 4 and 5 at home against Miami and Jacksonville, and then week 6 at home against the Giants. Week 7 on the road in New England. Week 8, they will be down here at Ray J taking on the Bucks. Week 9 on the road at Cincinnati. Week 10 back home against Denver. 11 the home game against the Jets. Week 12 on the road in Philly, and then a week 13 bye week for the Bills. After that, they get the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead for week 14. Back home against the Cowboys, on the road against the Chargers, back home against New England, and then finally wrapping up the season. Week 18, this will be a nail-biter against Miami on the road. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the over-under set at 10.5. What say you, Greg?
Wild.
It's tricky. I mean, I'm going to have to go over. But I was ready for the number to be higher and then to go under because, like the rest of this division, they've got a very tough schedule. The whole division having to face the AFC West out of division, which I think is a tough group, Chargers, Chiefs especially, and then the NFC East out of division. And then you mentioned those games against Miami, Jacksonville, and Giants, all technically home games, but they're giving up a home game and going to London. And technically, that's their home game, but
that's right.
Jacksonville's gonna have the fans there. There actually is a thing, Jaguars. So that's a small difference, but unlike the rest of the league, essentially, they're giving up a home game. So I am worried about it because of the schedule, but we got to give them some credit here. Coming off like 13 wins with basically the same or maybe even a better roster coming back this year.
Sean, I think you set that low.
That's fine.
I know what you're doing, and I get it. 10.5 for a team that won 13 games, like Greg just said, has almost the entire. I mean,
do they have a running back right now?
Well,
James
their
Cook.
running game, yeah,
James Cook is the guy.
It's James Cook, and their running game has been more Josh Allen than anything, which is my biggest hang up with them, is the fact that they don't run the ball as traditionally as I think they should. But I mean, it's over. I agree with Greg because this is one of the easier ones. It's a tough division, right? They're going to have a bunch of battles with the Jets, with the Dolphins, maybe the Patriots make it tough too. It's going to be a difficult division to get out of. But as Greg just said, I think that this is a team that most of it is back. You can't argue with what they've done in the past. You have a superstar quarterback. If you could actually balance the offense out, I think your ceiling is heightened. I totally agree. I'm going over it. And I think it's pretty simple.
Katie?
I have them at 12-5. I think as long as Josh Allen is slinging it like he is, I think they should continue to be a contender. I suspect the injury was a really big part of his inaccuracies last year, and it sounds like he'll be intentionally less mobile this season. I still don't really see it holding the team back. I don't have a ton of worries. Their offensive line, I don't love. I think they're just kind of average, but defense, I think they're well-rounded. Like, I'm curious to see how big of a loss Tremaine Edmonds is. I thought he played really well, especially in zone coverage last season. But yeah, they added depth. They added my guy Poona Ford, signed Leonard Floyd, and having a healthy Von Miller back is huge. Like you said, Sean, like weeks 9 through 16 look really tough, and I don't love the late bye, but I think they're still in the same Super Bowl window we've seen in the last few seasons.
I'll agree with you there. I still think they're in the same Super Bowl window. I think they could possibly get there, but I'm going under, honestly, and that's why I said it at 10.5. I have them at 10-7. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying that they're going to lose the division because, honestly, with such a tough division, 10 wins might get you the division this time around. I'll go 10-7. I'll take the under. I'm not saying that they're not going to be in an AFC title game or possibly the Super Bowl, because going through a gauntlet of a season we've seen in the past can still produce a Super Bowl contending team. I just think they're going to be under.
They've won 13, 11, and 13 the last 3 years. And there's reasons why this number is so low in the sports book. What are we calling it? The Pipe Sports Book?
We can rename it. I just called it.
TPS.
The Pipe Sports Book. Nick, get a logo ready.
Oh God.
No, I think there are some questions. I think about the pressure of the title window. Yeah, it sounds like a figment of your imagination or something that's concocted to drive the news cycle. But at the same time, like they've been good. Like Greg just said, they've won a lot of games in the last 3 years, and yet they haven't gotten over the hump. And the teams that they've struggled with getting past are not going anywhere. So I do wonder if, what makes this year different. But at 10.5, I still feel
better.
Yeah, I guess so. But I still feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah,
I feel comfortable with 11 wins. With this team, I still feel comfortable with 11 wins. So
it's a big moment for McDermott. So Shook got a lot of attention at the NFL Content Summit. Kyle Brandt gave him a lot of pop on Good Morning Football for being just such a massive individual. But right near Shook was Leslie Frazier. And I started thinking about it more when he was there, and I was like, did Sean McDermott kind of make a power move there that like he wanted to shake things up? I don't really know what happened, but I think it was telling they didn't hire anyone to replace Leslie Frazier. I think Sean McDermott was like, all right, it's time for me to run this defense. And this defense is very consistent in a league where defenses go up and down every year. They're very sound. I think you made a great point about Tremaine Edmonds, but I'm not that worried about it because I love Matt Milano, and I feel like it's the system that is really the strong star there.
As far as, Nick getting credit for how big he is, just imagine why we became friends, because in college I could walk into any frat house or any bar and know that I was good. No one was going to start nothing because I was next to Nick Shook.
It wasn't that simple, but all right, we'll go with that.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm still 6'2".
Yeah, I mean, I think we make a good tandem here. I don't
Exactly.
think it's all this. I'm not
Why do you
carrying
think
all
I hired
the
Shook? I was like, what? I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't.
You know damn well.
Nick smash.
It was phone conversations, and that's it. All right, let's move on to the next.
True. It was a surprise. It was a surprise.
All right, let's head down to Miami next. Week 1, the Dolphins are on the road taking on the Chargers. Week 2, they crisscross the country, take on the Patriots. Back home for their home opener, Week 3 against Denver. Then on the road at Buffalo. Back home against the Giants and Panthers in Week 5 and 6. On the road Week 7 against Philadelphia. Back home Week 8 against the Pats. Week 9, home against the Chiefs. They got a Week 10 bye week, which I get down with that. It's kind of right there in the middle almost. Week 11 back at home against the Raiders. Then a 2-week road swing against the Jets and Commanders. Back home against the Titans, Jets, and Cowboys, weeks 14 through 16. Week 17, back up north against Baltimore. And then week 18, back home against Buffalo. I'm just going to go ahead and circle that one because the time is listed at TBD. That's going to be prime time somewhere, whether it's Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. All right. Dolphins, however, I thought long and hard about this one because they've been good. They've been consistent, but they've also been consistently inconsistent at times. We don't know how healthy Tua Tagovailoa is going to be, when he is going to be healthy, when he is going to be consistent. So I've got them, even though some people are really high on them, I've got them at 9.5.
Oh. That's interesting. Well,
I wanted to put it at 10.5, truth be told, but it's one of those teams that I just don't know what's going to happen in the end. They look great on paper. Doesn't always work out in the end.
Ear. I understand. They got on the phone. They said, "Sean, you better bring that total down. We're trying to win here."
What kind of racket do you think I'm playing here, Nick?
I'm jumping right in. I'm going over. Are you kidding me? I think this team could make the Super Bowl. I think they could make an AFC Championship game, obviously, if I think that. Like, to me, if you just look at the roster, I think it's a top 5 roster. Like, it's a good enough offensive line. It's more about the scheme. And then almost everywhere else, you see plus starters, plus talent, and a plus coaching staff. Vic Fangio added to that defense is amazing. But I would be excited just looking at the players on that defense anyways. The Jalen Ramsey injury is frustrating, but they're deep in the secondary. I think they'll be okay until he gets back. I think putting them as my slight favorite to win this division. So if I went over with the Bills, I'm going over with the Dolphins.
That's going to shake things up here. I think over is safe again because 9.5. I mean, Sean's really just sandbagging here. I'm sorry, not to take a shot at you, but you are kind of sandbagging these.
I'm checking it out though. There's some more reputable.
More reputable sources
than the Pipe Sportsbook.
It was in that moment.
I did not come here to be slandered.
Well, I mean, Sean, look, this is your first time. It's your third time doing this. Fourth time. I don't know how many years it's been. But that works out, I guess, right? We'll go with your total anyway. I think this first month is going to tell us a lot about this team because you go on the road to the Chargers. You go on the road to the Patriots, trap game maybe, at home versus Denver, and then on the road at Buffalo. Now, you come out of there 3-1, 4-0. Everybody's riding high in Miami. They're taking their rented Lambos and doing donuts in the streets because the Miami Dolphins are on their way to the Super Bowl, right? That back half of the schedule does set up pretty nicely for them as well. I hate to play the schedule game too much, but that is what we're doing here essentially. Tennessee is a nice way to start that 4 home games in the last 5 weeks. And if you're going to play those teams like New York, big division game, Dallas, Baltimore, Buffalo, you want to be at home for the most part. Baltimore, of course, being on the road. So I agree with Greg. I mean, this roster is very strong. Good addition on the defensive staff with Vic. And the question really comes down to Tua. It really does. Yep. I mean, it's cliche at this point, but if he's healthy, then they have a legitimate chance. And if he's not, then we don't know what they are. Now, the one thing I'm concerned about, Greg, you probably back this up. How do they respond to how they perform? Statistically, it doesn't show out, but when you look at it on the tape, how they performed in the passing game in the back half of the season last year. Now, I know they didn't have Tua for some of that, but when they did have him, they weren't quite as explosive as we saw early in the season. And I felt it had more to do with what defenses were doing against them than what they were necessarily doing. They were shifting more away from the man and saying, hey, look, pick us apart defensively when we're in zone because we're not going to try to run with your speed. Is that going to be a hurdle for them? I trust Mike McDaniel and his genius to get past that, but I do worry about it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not that worried with that speed. I think he's going to be as creative as any of that Shanahan tree coaching staff to adjust and change up what they do. And I think you're going to see them run a lot. Like, I think they're going to be a good running game. I think that's a big part of what they do. But you're making me think I should walk across the street week 1 at Chargers. That's a tasty week 1 game. That was kind of the game that got their skid started offensively, was what the Chargers did. So I'm very curious to see that.
All right, let's go. Katie, what do you think?
I have 11-6 for them. And like you said, Nick, so much of it rides on the health of Tua. It was such a difference when he wasn't there. But they're so well-rounded. They have so much depth. I love their defense. I love Mike McDaniel so much. That delightful little magician can just vape away on the sidelines, and I'll just enjoy every second of him coaching. I just love him. But Greg, you mentioned the run game. You know who I'm excited to see added to that speedy offense? Devon Achane. Like, you're adding him to an offense that already has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like, it just doesn't even seem fair. That guy is so fast. I watched them. What's that?
It's a track team. It's got to be the fastest team in the NFL.
Oh, no question. But yeah, I'm high on the Dolphins. I think as long as Tua is healthy, I think they contend for the division. No question.
If there was ever a team that really, embodied, what that city is like, it's got to be the Miami Dolphins. You said it. It's a track team. That's what Florida athletes are. That's what, covering high school football down here. That's everything. So that team, it looks exactly like what Miami Northwestern or Miami Central looks like on paper as well. I've got the over, actually. I'm high on the Miami Dolphins if Tua can stay healthy and if he can play consistent. Katie, I agree. I got him at 11-6, and I got him winning the division. I might have egg on my face at the end of the season just because Tua doesn't come to play or he gets hurt again. But I'm willing to accept that at this point.
Greg, we do the show live, so we have some people chiming in the chat right now. And I don't know if you remember Logan Reardon. He used to be an intern with us back in the day. He's an avid, dedicated, loyal viewer of the show. And Katie just made him happy because he said, if anybody wants to read that, did we talk about Achane yet? Yes, of course we did. I think that's a sneaky little pick there. But again, like we have a new viewer here, actually. Ohio Boy 86. He says, as scary as those perimeter weapons are in Miami, the absolute key to their success is keeping Tua upright. And I agree with you.
Your show looks good, by the way. Like the intro to it with the song, the lower thirds with the graphics. Whoever's doing all that deserves a raise.
Oh, well, that's me. Sean did the intro.
I was about to say, don't take credit for my intro video.
No, Sean did the intro, and that was the best part. But I am the one pressing the buttons over here. Who we got next, Sean?
We have got, where are we going next? Let's go to the Jets. How about the Jets? Why not?
All right.
Who we get to see tomorrow night, actually, so that's going to be fun. Football is back, baby. Week 1 on primetime Monday night against Buffalo at home. Week 2 on the road at Dallas. Week 3 back at home against New England. Back at home again week 4 against KC. On the road week 5 against Denver. Yeah, that's a tough start to the schedule. And then week 6 back home against Philly. Week 7 bye. Week 8 on the road against why did I even say that? I look stupid now. On the road against the Giants. Week 9 home against the Chargers. I'm not going to live that down.
You're doing great, Sean.
Thanks. Weeks 10 and 11 on the road against Vegas and Buffalo. They're in Miami week 12, they're at home against Miami week 12, home against Atlanta week 13, home against Houston week 14, on the road for 3 of their final 4, week 15 in Miami, week 16 at home against Washington, and then week 17 and 18 on the road against the Browns and Pats.
The Browns.
So with all of their added weaponry, with their added, let's say, veteran stewardship at quarterback, let's give them 9.5 too. Why not? I'm just getting lazy at this point. Copy paste.
Wow. I mean, a lack of creativity out of the Pipe Sportsbook, the newly renamed Pipe Sportsbook.
I like to keep it. I like to keep things level. I like to keep things even because if I'm wrong, I don't want to be wrong by a lot.
Oh, you're couching it, my friend. But all right, we turn the floor to Greg. What do you think?
I'm tired of these shots across the bow.
Hey, I don't want to go over on all 4. So I think I'm going to go under on the Jets, even though that number, I almost feel like you're begging us to go over. I'm not going to fall for it. Something's got to go wrong here, and it's the Jets. And so there is like a jetsiness to all of this that just makes me wonder what's going to go wrong. And then you look at it, and you mentioned the weapons. Offensively, is it that good of a group around Aaron Rodgers? I guess that would be my question. Garrett Wilson, yes. After that, quite thin at receiver. Breece Hall's coming off of a torn ACL. We'll see if he's the same guy. He's not really close to returning right now. And then the offensive line, 2 shaky tackle situations right now. Dwayne Brown coming off an injury, just uncertainty at center. The offense in general, I'm a little concerned about. I think Rodgers will make that all look better. But overall, I'm a little concerned about a team that's really relying on their defense. The defense looks great. It should be great. But I'm gonna go under just for the some one of these 3 teams has to be a disappointment, right, Katie? Like what? I can't. It's hard to imagine a world where the Bills, Jets, and Dolphins fans are happy on January 1st.
It's still so wild seeing Aaron Rodgers in a Jets uniform, but it's nice to see he didn't get any less fucking chaotic with a new team. But yeah, which Rodgers are we going to see? Like, my gut tells me that he'll probably be revitalized with a new team, but I think there's a world in which we see a Russell Wilson situation. Like, I'm a Seahawks gal. The back half of his last season in Seattle was rough, but are we going to see the 2020 Bucks, the 2021 Rams, or is it more of the 2022 Broncos? Like, here's my concern if I'm a Jets fan. We've seen it before where Aaron Rodgers needs to trust his receivers. Who knows if that takes a bit of time to be put together. Their schedule in the first 4 games, Bills, Cowboys, Patriots, Chiefs, Philly in week 6. Those are a lot of teams that can really pressure you defensively. And if Aaron Rodgers isn't settled in with his guys yet, I don't know. I think maybe there's a chance it goes off the rails. It feels a little like, oh, the Broncos are just 1 quarterback away, and look how that went.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that last point specifically, because it has very much of a dream team, like the Eagles' dream team feel to it. And it's not just because, hey, we got our quarterback and everything, but a lot of it is because of that. This is a team that's super young, that surprised a lot of people last year and did it with average to below average quarterback play for the most part, suffered a lot of injuries, and that's really what their downfall was. But it was 1 year. It wasn't a full year. It's a lot to just expect them to put everything together in one offseason, come out there and play like gangbusters right off the top. And the schedule doesn't do them any favors. I mean, 3 of those first 4 games are against playoff teams from last year. You go down to week 6 and you make 4
and the Patriots could beat them.
I mean, the other one is against a team they haven't beaten. Like, the only thing the Patriots have left from the Brady dynasty is beating up on the Jets. I don't know when the last time the Jets won that game.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like everything sounds too good to be true to me. And maybe it's just because I'm a cynic at this point, and maybe it's because of where I'm from. But I just have a hard time buying in and believing it when there are more proven teams. Now, you can say the same thing about the Dolphins, realistically, but there are more proven options in this division. So if everything goes right and they make this march to, the playoffs and potentially beyond, then that's great. But a lot has to go right. And the injury bug already bit them pretty hard last year. I'm just not so confident in it. So, I don't want to go like chalk with Greg here, but I'm also going to go under just because 9.5's low. But like you said, somebody's got to have something go wrong among these first 3 teams. And if I look at it, I think it's the Jets. And I honestly wasn't very impressed by Aaron Rodgers last year. I know a lot of different things are going on there, but there were a few times where I'm like, that's the beginning of the decline. We'll see. I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts there.
Guys, do me a favor. Come here real quick. Come here. Just come here. Okay, that's close enough. Let me give you a history lesson here, because I do love Formula One. I do love football, but I also love history. Back in 2008, there was a surefire Hall of Famer who made the drive from Green Bay, Wisconsin to the Meadowlands in New Jersey. Brett Favre finished his one and only season in New York, New Jersey, whatever, as a Jet. 9-7. You can't, lose 7 games anymore and still win 9.
Nice math.
So I'm going to go under as well, because I got him at 9 and 8.
I just saw the gears turning in his head. He's like,
no, I was just giving you a dramatic pause right there, because Katie, give me some credit here. Way back when, a couple of months ago, I said Rodgers to New York. It's put it in stone. It's happening, and it happened. It's following. History is repeating itself. We have not learned from history, and it is doomed to repeat itself. Aaron Rodgers will win 9 games. as a New York Jet, and maybe he'll retire after this. Who knows? Even though he just signed a new contract, but who knows with that guy with 1 year in the New York media spotlight on him. It doesn't sound like a good recipe for success.
Well, let's hope he doesn't take the full Brett Favre trajectory to the present day.
Well, including in that Jets year, there was a lot written about in Deadspin. If you guys want to go back to the old days, they were 8-3 at one point. They were 8-3 at one point that year. They were a trendy Super Bowl pick. I was at the overtime game as a fan. I think it was the last time I've been in a regular season game as a fan when he outdueled Matt Castle in an overtime shootout in Foxborough. It was a good game in the 30s. And then the next week after that, the Jets went to Tennessee and they romped the Kerry Collins led team that was the 1 seed weirdly in the AFC that year. And they crushed them. And so for a while, it looked great until it didn't. And I could see that. There's no way this is going to be boring. It's going to be huge ups and huge downs, and I'm ready for it. If for no other reason, then it'll be good entertainment and make the Around the NFL podcast better.
I also just watched a team last year. I also just watched a team last year where they added Russell Gage, Julio Jones, and Cole Beasley in the offseason and won 8 games. So, what was the Bucs' problem last year? Bad offensive line and an aging quarterback. Ring any bells? So, I'll go under 2.
I don't know if this is as bad of an. It's not as bad.
It's not as bad. No.
One more question before we move on to our last team. Logan jumping in here again. He says, "Any Robert Saleh thoughts?" I'm still not sure where I stand on him. Greg, what do you think?
Seems like he'd be a fun guy to hang out with. Seems like a stand-up guy. Seems like a good head coach and a good defensive coach. I never love. I always lean towards hiring an offensive coach in general because of what you've already seen with Robert Saleh, like cycling through his offenses, and like that's a concern. But as defensive coaches go, I'm pretty high on him because you could see the impact he made in terms of his coaching from 1 year to the next with the Jets.
It was nice to see them because you see this often where a hot coordinator comes in, doesn't affect change, gets fired after 2 or 3 years. It was nice to see them kind of turn the corner a little bit in the second year. We'll see if it happens in year 3. All right, let's move on to our last team of this session. And that is, of course, Gregg Rosenthal's own New England Patriots. Sean, where are we putting this line? And it better not be 9.5 or I'm kicking you out.
I'm curious about this one.
All right, so starting off the Pats season, weeks 1 and 2 at home against Philly and Miami, weeks 3 and 4 on the road at the Jets and Cowboys. Back home, week 5 against the Saints. Not a gimme either. Week 6 on the road in the desert against Vegas. Back home against Buffalo. On the road against Miami. Finishing off before the bye, weeks 9 and 10 at home against Washington. Or no, excuse me, they are. Is that a Germany game or is that a London game? It doesn't say Germany, on ESPN.com. So Germany. Okay, so they'll be in Germany week 10 against the Colts. It's a 9:30 a.m. kickoff. 6:30 on the West Coast. Week 11 bye. Week 12 on the road against New York. The Giants, of course. 13 at home against the Chargers. Then they are in Pittsburgh week 14. Back home against KC week 15. On the road week 16 and 17 against the Broncos and Bills. And then week 18 against the Jets at home. Again, I wrestled hard with this one because this is a Bill Belichick-led team. There's still questions with Mac Jones under center. There's questions on this offense. It wasn't very good last year. That being said, I 7.5. I feel bad about that. I feel like I'm disrespecting them.
Ew.
But 7.5.
What is there? All right, no offense, but what is there to respect right now?
Exactly.
Bill Belichick, basically.
Okay, all right.
Good-looking defense. They played well last year. I'm going over.
Let's give them the props.
Yeah, let's quick kill the suspense here. I'm going over because one thing I've learned is the Patriots always do well under Belichick in the years that there's no hype whatsoever. Oh. And they did it during the Mac Jones rookie year too, where there was nothing going on there. And I'm not saying they're going to be incredible this year. When you look at that schedule, I think that's why it's 7.5. I think if you put them in the AFC South or the NFC South, you could be like, hey, they got a chance to win this division. Maybe their over-under is 8.5. Like, but that schedule is crazy. They got Philly and Dallas, who to me are the two most talented NFC teams, and then Jets, Dolphins, like Bills, right off the bat. I mean, that is just brutal. But they were one of the best defense in the league last year. They add Christian Gonzalez, who people I trust. Tom Curran, for instance, said he looks like the best player on the team already. I love their secondary in general. I like Jack Jones, despite his off-field stuff as a player. In general, they're going to be a defensive team, and I do think just adding any small level of competence on offense, you have a great running back in Ramondre Stevenson, and I just think they'll find a way to annoy teams and get to 9 wins, let's say.
Are you a fan of the Mac attack, or does Zappy make you happy?
I'm a big Mac Jones believer because I think once you show, and we're just gonna let that pass. You got your laughs. Zappy.
Sorry,
I'm not one of the Patriots fans. Like people, there's a whole Zappy contingent in New England, but no, Mac Jones played really well as a rookie. Like he showed things that I think translate as an NFL quarterback, like anticipation, timing. He had a better rookie season by far than Trevor Lawrence. I know he didn't have Urban Meyer, but I think he can be like an average starting NFL quarterback.
I think this is a huge make or break season for Mac Jones.
Yes.
And not getting DeAndre Hopkins feels like a huge missed opportunity for their quarterback and that offense. Because, it clearly didn't work last year. That was a pretty painful experience to watch.
Juju, though.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully they can remedy that with Bill O'Brien. I mean, see what's going on there.
I think Juju will be a nice pickup for them. I like the Juju pickup. I mean, I don't like losing Jacoby Myers, but I like Juju.
Well, that actually leads us into what one of our commenters said here in the chat. 7 wins for the Patriots without a real wide receiver. One, Mac Jones will struggle to lead a truly effective offense. If we go back a couple of years, I don't know if that was necessarily a struggle. This is a team that hasn't had a quote unquote number one receiver for a little bit now. Losing Jacoby Myers hurts, but I don't know if there's a lot of proof to that, right?
I mean, well, they haven't. It's a problem. You would like Mac Jones to have a better group of receivers,
right? But
if your point is that they haven't had them in 5 years, Nick, that's true. It's been a while. It's been since 2018, basically, when Gronk was still on the team.
I'm just looking at their schedule following their bye week in Week 11. Giants, Chargers, Steelers, Chiefs, Broncos, Bills, Jets.
No easy games anymore.
No, there's no easy games, and I'm not saying they're going to go 0-7 their last 7 weeks after the bye, but it is realistic that could happen.
The first 7 are even harder, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I'm going under, needless to say. Unfortunately, I just don't think they'll be scrappy. You're right, Greg. They'll be annoying, but they're just on paper not that talented as the rest of the division.
I do push back on that a little bit. I think it's the most talented defense that Belichick has had in 5 years. I think he even said it that like that you almost need, like he almost acted like he was starting over with the franchise post Brady, and he was saying that this is, now year 4 of that process. And I think if you look at it, the front 7's really good. I think the secondary is exactly what he wants. Like I think they can be a top 2 or 3 defense in the NFL.
I'm looking at the schedule and I'm trying to find games in which that defense will keep things close enough and annoying enough for them to win games. And maybe in the middle portion, you get your because that
New Orleans
second Buffalo game is like that maybe New Orleans. I don't know what I'm going to get out of the Saints this year. I think we've been over that already. I'm still.
Maybe
that's a weird division, but I don't know.
The Giants, the Steelers.
Washington is a pretty good defense. Indianapolis, that's winnable. I'm not high on the Giants, so maybe that's one. But this schedule is relentless. I'm going to go under. I got to go against Greg eventually, and here we go. I'm going against him here. Got to go under, and it's close to the line, but some team in this division has to, bring up the rear, but be in the bottom half. And I think for as much as they'll be in those close games, I don't know. I do feel confident with them with Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinator. I mean, you can't get much worse than they were with Matt Patricia and company on that offensive staff last year. We'll see. But I just don't feel super confident in this team. I do think they'll be in a lot of close games, though.
We've seen Bill Belichick's teams outperform expectations before. I still have the under. I have 7 and 10, but you're right, Greg. That defense is really loaded.
I mean, you got me all excited
What's that?
there for us. Well, that was like you were saying that you believe in Bill Belichick, beating expectations. Then you put him at 7-10. You put him under this.
We do believe. That's why we're giving him 7.
Well, it's just that it's the schedule
though.
and that offense. That offense just doesn't excite me whatsoever.
This is what I'm saying, though. This is what the Patriots. I'm still holding on to something.
They want you. They want you to doubt them.
All their best years were in years that there were where there were the lowest expectations possible. Sneaky 2014 was like that. 2010, like different years where they played quite well were years there were lower expectations. Let's go.
You're right. All their best years, they also had the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah.
We forgot that little caveat.
The big
other than that.
Okay. Other than that, no. Everyone was dogging them.
All right, well, we'll see how that pans out. But that wraps up our AFC East preview. And before we get Greg out of here and shift to F1, it's time for a new segment, folks. I figure with every guest that we have on here, they've all traveled memorable paths, twisting and turning. And, well, we need some story times here. Greg, give us your best story possible throughout your career, whether it was you running scripts through LA 20 years ago or recently. I'm hitting you on the spot. So if you don't come up with anything, it's fine. But you know what?
Yeah, I wish you had told me. Give me a good story. We should talk about how you were hired at the NFL. Was that a good story? I don't even really remember it. You can tell me that story.
No, I don't remember that story very much, other than it was a phone call from you.
Well,
let's talk about.
Go ahead. Well, what were you gonna say? Because you immediately got me thinking of my script running days back in.
Well, yeah, that's what I
LA.
remember is early on, the first time I left the NFL, you were like, I understand. I hated it out here back in the early 2000s. I was running scripts. So tell me your story.
Well, I worked at like a production company that ended up making like a Cedric the Entertainer movie, Mr. The Johnson's Family Vacation. I don't know if you're familiar with it. The Paul Hall, shout out to Paul Hall, who produced the Shaft update with Samuel Jackson. But yes, you would get calls at like 9 p.m. at night, and you would have to run a script up to Santa Barbara on a random like Friday night. I was a page at the Tonight Show, so I got to like bring waters to Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz and things like that. That was pretty exciting. But it was all just like a preamble to meeting you, Nick.
Oh, yeah, okay. Wait, I like the way you diverted that. Yeah, that was good. All right. Well, that'll stand. I was going to ask you about the beginning of the Around the NFL podcast, since a lot of viewers here know you from that.
Well, I know Katie has a connection with our great friend Chris Wesseling, and I was thinking, because I was out the other day, that it's been exactly 10 years since I came out to Santa Monica here, and I moved out here exactly 1 month apart from Chris, who came from Tybee Island, and we started the podcast later this month, I guess, in 2013, right? So that's been a run, and there's no magic story to that other than the NFL hired me to start a PFT, Pro Football Talk, sort of knockoff news blog, and I was more excited to start a podcast. And as you know, Mark and Dan were already doing some of that work out here, and they let me have one hire, and I thought I would get to hire a lot of people full-time over the years, and that ended up being it. And it was Chris Wesseling, and we came out here about 10 years ago, and that was awesome.
And the rest has been a magnificent, spectacular history that continues on, where you can find Greg on the Around the NFL podcast all the time. What do you, 5 days a week now is how long the show is running?
4 in the training camp, but yeah, 5 once we get to the season.
And where can everybody find you?
Twitter. I signed up for Threads, but that seems to be dying quickly. Wherever you find people on social media, it's easy.
Greg and on TV.
60%
about seeing them on TV. Yes.
Not very little TV. I think you're on TV more than I am. You both, all of you.
We'll see about that. I think Sean's leading us all in that category right now.
At least once a day, guys.
All right, Greg. Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate your insight, expertise, and your time most importantly. So thank you. We appreciate it. If you ever want to come back, more than welcome.
I'll think of a good story for that. I'm gonna think of one like 1 minute after we say goodbye.
Well, that's on me for not letting you know, which is
okay.
Par for the course here.
Way to go, producer.
Thanks,
Greg.
See you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
See you guys.
All right. Well, that wraps up our recap. Jesus, I can't talk today. That wraps up our NFL portion of the show. Sean, what do we do when we're done with the NFL?
We shift gears to F1, but before we do that, it's everyone's favorite game show.
Ring the alarm bells, folks. The game show that's sweeping the nation. Everybody's talking about it.
It's called Do You
Do
Even
you
Know?
even know?
I didn't join it. I should have.
It's the game show where two co-hosts gang up on the third and ask them a string of trivia questions, and the interviewee has absolutely no idea what the topic is, what the questions will be, so it's kind of a lot of fun. And this week, I get quizzed.
Yes, see, Greg, that's what we do. We surprise everyone here with no preparation. Katie, what is our topic?
Crap.
Our topic today, I don't know if you guys have heard, but the Women's World Cup is currently on television. So we are talking the Women's World Cup.
Okay.
Are you ready for this, Sean?
I hope there's no specifics on player names.
I set the bar low with the college football exercise, so it truly can't get any worse from here.
Okay,
So you're welcome,
let's do
my
this. All right, let's do this.
Okay.
Everybody's excited.
So, Sean, the first
Yeah.
official Women's World Cup was in 1991, but it wasn't actually referred to as the World Cup. FIFA was reluctant to refer to it as such because apparently affording women that dignity was too challenging for them, and they didn't want to, quote-unquote, tarnish the brand. Pathetic, I know. Sean, do you even know what was the name of the first FIFA World Championship for women?
Yes, the M&M's Challenge Cup.
You were weirdly close. What the hell?
It's what is it?
So it was called the first FIFA World Championship for women's football for the M&M's Cup. So they had,
okay. So
yeah, so they had Mars
That's a half
Incorporated
point.
sponsor it, which are the M&M's folks, to skirt around having to call it the Women's World Cup because they didn't think the talent level was worthy, which is some
Can I? Okay,
bullshit.
real quick. Can I VAR this? Give me that. Give me. I think that's a whole point, not a half a point. I think that's a whole point.
I think that's a whole point. Yeah,
Okay,
I
thank you.
Yeah,
fundamentally
I
agree
was
with that.
there.
Nobody was
I was
arguing
there.
with you on that.
Okay.
If we would have
What makes it half a
gotten him,
point?
if we would have gotten him on the technicality of the Mars Incorporated, I'd have been like, come on. The red
one
M&M
point.
and the yellow
I knew
M&M.
it was called just the M&M's Cup or something like that. But yeah.
Something vastly pathetic. Okay,
All
Nick.
right, Sean. Question numero dos. Do you even know which country not from North America or Europe has won the Women's World Cup?
Japan.
Wow, he's going to hit all of them.
Let's
No,
go.
I don't know if he'll get my next one, but also
Probably not. No.
I'm pulling out a fourth question just so he doesn't go perfect.
Okay.
All right, Katie.
you work on that. Okay, Sean. She's an Olympic gold medalist, two-time Olympic bronze medalist, CONCACAF champion, and 14-time winner of the Canada Soccer Player of the Year award. Also hailing from beautiful British Columbia, Christine Sinclair is the world's all-time leader for international goals scored for men or women. Sean, do you even know how many international goals does the GOAT have?
That's, I just have to pick a random number out
What? No, I've seen this number
Infinity.
everywhere around the World Cup. I've seen it in writing a ton of times, but I also take
Okay,
a lot of-
so the most international goals all time.
Burnaby, British Columbia.
Can I
My guy.
can I have a hint? Is it in the triple digits?
Triples.
Okay.
Triples is best. Triples makes it safe.
All right.
Big B says 420.
420. That is an excellent
Ah.
answer. Great guess. I
I'm
almost
gonna
want to
guess-
accept that, even though it's way off.
I'm gonna guess 128.
No,
Okay.
190.
Ooh. Okay. Well, I shortchanged it.
190.
I think they only play so many international games per year.
That's just how good she
Being
is.
that Canada doesn't have a World Cup title, the chances of those goals are far fewer. So
But it's
I
Christine
shortchanged it a little bit.
Sinclair. She's
Sorry.
built different.
My queen, Megan Rapinoe, is built different.
We're allowed to have different queens. She is
That's
my
fine.
Vice Queen.
I did. I made a shirt a couple of 4th of Julys ago of Megan Rapinoe with the, arms extended to the crowd. And I printed that on a t-shirt. And it just said America over top of it. So I made my own 4th of July t-shirt. I was like,
they conflict me so much because we're not supposed to cheer for any American teams ever. It's like a cardinal sin in Canada, but they're so easy to cheer for. I just love that team.
Yeah, you don't have to cheer for them this year, and because it's not going their way.
Anybody read that? No. No.
Club Fantasy FFL says she is she.
She is she.
Are we talking about?
Can I just go on? Can I actually? No, I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that for later. Let me fit that. And also, Ohio Boy 86 says
I should have. But being that I don't, own her, NIL, probably would have gotten sued relatively quick.
Sean, it's time for a bonus question.
All right, I'm down.
Which 2 European countries are making their debuts at the tournament? See, Pennsylvania this year.
Is one of them Italy?
No.
Oh, dang it. Okay.
No more guesses, except for your final answer.
Okay. So there are 2 European countries.
2 European countries are making their debuts at the tournament. Oh, that hurts to say it like that.
It hurts to hear, if that helps.
Well,
Tournament
can
this
I look
year.
up the original field of 32 real quick?
Absolutely not. No Googling is allowed, sir.
Put your phone away.
We have to move on. Just do it.
Just take a
No, not Sweden, because they're really, really good. Portugal, and I know one's Portugal. Portugal and was there one of the Balkans? Is it Portugal and France?
Oh, he just missed it, folks. He was so close and he blew it. The answer is
Portugal and Denmark. Portugal and Denmark.
And the Republic of Ireland. So despite all of your guesses, you missed. And that wraps up America's favorite, hottest game show since HQ.
Do you even know?
No. All right.
Since HQ, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I just watched that documentary on Max, formerly known as HBO Max, on HQ and how it fell apart. It was a nightmare. My God. Ego drives companies apart. And yeah, not good. I mean, you should watch it, but the story itself, ugly in the end. All right, let's get over to, shift gears, and now we're into F1. Felt that, everyone? Transmission real smooth right now. Formula One it took to the highlands of Belgium last weekend for the final race before the summer break. Where did we race, folks?
Spa-Francorchamps.
Stunning.
That is a new sound drop. Thank you, Sean.
I love it. Yeah, we were at Spa. We were at Spa this weekend. Final race for the summer break, as you alluded to, Nick. So, a lot on the line for everyone not named Max Verstappen. And I mean, we got, I don't want to call it a good race, but we did get a race just because Max started from 6th place. He took a 5-place grid penalty for a new gearbox. Still wins by a country mile. What we did have, though, is we had a really good race from Sergio Perez, who finished, P2, Red Bull's 5th 1-2 of the year, first in, I think, 7 weeks. So it's been a while, I think, since Miami. And then you had Charles Leclerc in P3. So Ferrari didn't completely screw over their drivers. They did that all on their own. At least one of them didn't, Carlos Sainz. And then you just had a kind of hodgepodge of drivers throughout the rest because it was a difficult weekend. You had a sprint race, so you'd qualifying on Friday, then you'd the sprint qualifying and the sprint race on Saturday. You lost a practice session. Friday and Saturday were wet. Sunday was dry, except for like 5 minutes in which you didn't even need wet weather tires. It was difficult to kind of judge how to run your car during this race, and I think a lot of teams suffered from that.
Yeah, I agree. Setup sucked.
Oh, thank you.
For a lot of these teams.
Big build up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
the dramatic pause, Nick. The suspense was killing me.
The long inhale, the heavy sigh. That's kind of how I felt watching McLaren get around the track for most of that race. It got interesting when it was wet, and then it dried out, and I mean, Lando deserves a tip of the cap for finishing P7, but that car, after being awesome for the last month, was not great, and it was kind of disappointing. I thought we had some interesting clashes on the track in the opening laps. It was an intriguing race because of when it rained, but ultimately it wasn't the most captivating race. It's not the type of way I want to go into the break, but in this season, do you get that much excitement when it's all said and done? When
Outside
McLaren,
of Max Verstappen, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
We're just pretending he's not
outside
part of F1.
P1. Yeah, so I don't know. It was cool. It was all right.
They should honestly at this point now. All right, picture this: give Max the trophy. He's already won. Just give him the trophy.
Get out of here.
And yeah, go on a vacation. Go on an early sabbatical, Max. Let everyone else race. How much fun would that be if we just removed? We don't even have to remove Sergio Perez. Just remove Max Verstappen from the equation. Maybe, put. Heck, you could put Daniel Ricciardo in the Red Bull, put Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull, just maybe call up a rookie and put him in one of the Alpha Tauris. Just, you can still have 20 cars. You can still have 2 Red Bulls. Just remove Max Verstappen. Will Sergio Perez win every race? I think not.
No, not based on how he's performed. No. Yeah, you're right. It would add a lot of intrigue and we'd get a different winner. And that would be fun. But I mean, yeah, there's some fun in the rest of the field. So let's check our notes, guys. Katie wasn't here last week.
I'm excited to check these notes for once.
Oh, boy. Katie, let's just get this out of the way. Katie, she was almost perfect. She had all 3 podium finishers correct, except for in the order. And then she didn't have a bold prediction, so negative points for that. But
bold prediction, I have accidentally got distracted and forgot to fill this out.
And then she put hee at the end.
What was it?
No, it was a cute, sorry.
So, was that saved? Did you save that?
Yeah, of course. All right. I did. I have that cut as a drop. Come on, these buttons are right here.
Give Katie credit where credit's due. That was man. Now we're just that is not applicable here, Nick.
I know, just using all the Sean drops. We're just gonna keep stacking them up as the time goes. We'll never have our own drops, just you.
Just me. But no, give credit where credit's due, Katie. Good predictions. Good predictions.
For those that don't know, my predictions were number 1, Max Verstappen. Number 2, Charles Leclerc. Number 3, Checo Perez. So right ones, wrong order. Ferrari's weirdly good on sprint weekends.
And for that, Katie gets a solo shot. Katie!
I don't want this. Take it off. What do you want me to do right now?
That's a drop right there. What do you want me to do right now?
What am I doing?
Yeah, we're just making jokes here, folks. Sean, what was your podium predictions? Let's scroll down the Google Doc here. Ooh, tough day for you. Ooh.
Yeah, go ahead and read them off, Nick.
Oh, yeah, that was a tough scene.
Well, we'll go from third to first. In P3, we had George Russell. P2, we had Lewis Hamilton. And P1, we had Sean's favorite guy, Lando Norris. And
strikes 1, 2, and 3.
You're out.
Oh, and then what about your bold prediction?
For a 4th.
Yeah, my bold
Max's
prediction.
First DNF of the season. Yikes.
No. I did not say that. That was not my bold prediction. My bold prediction was actually that both Williams would finish in the points.
Oh, we didn't update that doc then. Well, yikes on me. Yeah, both Williams, not great.
Hey, guys, you know what? It wasn't a great weekend for McLaren, and therefore it wasn't a great weekend for the world. But I want to give Lando Norris credit for finishing half of that race on soft tires and still managing to come home P7 after they were running more downforce than any other car in what turned out to be a near bone-dry day Sunday. Oscar gets clipped going into the first turn by Carlos Sainz, ruining both of their days. So, look, you got to admit when you're wrong. I just so rarely am, but this weekend I was.
Oscar didn't have a terrible weekend. Like in the sprint, he got second. And it's so funny because when he was asked about the podium, he basically said, I don't even really know what this is. That's how I feel about the sprint. I very notably do not like sprint weekends. I think they're pointless and silly. But his reaction to it was funny.
Funny story here, though. So I was on vacation at my parents' place at the shore in Delaware this weekend, and I get up and I'm watching the sprint race on Saturday, and my mom was watching it with me, and she was like, "Oh, is this like the sport you're so crazy about now, Formula One?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, I'll watch it." She absolutely loved the sprint race. By the end of the sprint race, all 4 of us, my dad, my mom, my brother, and I were watching this race, and they were asking me questions about Red Bull. What is Red Bull? Well, it's Red Bull. It is the energy drink company. Okay, well, who makes their cars? Red Bull. Well, it says Honda. Does Honda make their cars? Yes and no. And I went into all of this. And so they were so excited that we watched the race on Sunday. And they were like, this is boring. This sucks. What is this? This is not what we watched yesterday.
I knew he was going to pull the rug out from me at one point.
I was like, over 11 laps, yes, it's exciting. Over 44, yeah, not so much.
If the race was set up like the sprint was, it could have been a better race. That's what I was wanting, was more than 11 laps with that one, with the way that the weather was changing and strategy was having to change. I wish that was on Sunday and the exact same time.
I have a proposal, and I think it's pretty simple, and I think we're all going to agree. Get rid of sprint shootout and just go back to what it was last year. It's too complicated.
Yes.
We don't need all this.
I'm fine with that there's more points to win in the sprint shootout, but I like that the sprint qualified for or set the qualifying order for Sunday.
Yeah,
I thought that was fun. I thought, okay, now we know this. Now, if you crash, well, you're going to start in P20, or you might start in the pit lane. Like, it added more drama to it. I think now it's just okay. It's an 11 lap race where Max gets another couple of points.
I had to actually sit and explain it to Bridget. I was like, because I watched the sprint race first. I watched sprint shootout first, then the sprint race. Then I went back and watched qualifying, and she's like, didn't you already watch this? And I was like, no, this is qualifying. She's like, I thought we already watched that this morning. And I was like, no, this is a different qualifying. This is for the race. She's like, I thought the sprint set the grid. And I was like, not anymore.
Not anymore.
She's like, why? And I was like, because they love to overcomplicate.
Great question,
they love
Bridget.
money.
Yeah, they do. And they eventize everything. I would like to avoid this, but I'm just going to call myself out on the carpet right here. My predictions were just as bad as Sean's. We had P1 Max Verstappen. Yeah, that's great. I guess the guy who wins every race. P2, Lando Norris. My doubling down on him did not work. And P3, Oscar Piastri. But I feel like
you know what? Hey, can we give Oscar Piastri some just props here too? Because he had a better weekend than Lando Norris, except for that turn 1 incident with Carlos Sainz. He was going to beat Lando Norris in every aspect on that weekend: qualifying, sprint race, and the actual race. It was going to be a clean sweep for the rookie. And that is something we should take note of.
File that under things we love to see.
Yes, exactly.
Here are your flowers, Oscar.
It's fun to see when a young driver proves the people who give them the opportunity right. When they're like, we love his potential, and they drive a crap car, and all of a sudden they're driving a decent car, and they're driving really well. They're driving the crap out of it. So it is fun. My bold prediction, Valtteri Bottas gets in the top 8 at P8. He finished P12. So swing and a miss. And that's that. All right. We go into the summer break now, and there's some things to talk about. We do have to get this out of the way. I think we kind of already got it out of the way, right? Max is just going to win every race from here on out, right?
I mean, the law of averages say no, but I don't want to bet against them. How do you, when they have won every single race, every single sprint race this year? That is insane. And aside from, I mean, how many times has he not been on pole? Like, was it just that one race in Hungary?
Well,
no,
I actually didn't.
Exactly. The fact that we have to rack our brains
exactly.
says how much of a foregone conclusion this season is. That's why I'm saying, just Max, here are your flowers. Here's your trophy. We'll see you at the banquet at the end of the year. Go take a nice vacation, okay? Go take what's his girlfriend's name?
Kelly.
I don't remember. Kelly. That's right.
Yeah, Kelly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go take Kelly. Go take her and her daughter out for a nice, cruise on the Mediterranean. Just kick up your feet. Have a nice break. Yuki, get in this car. Let's see what happens. Jack Doohan, you're driving AlphaTauri now. Just let's have some fun. Let's shake things up.
I'm trying to just step back and appreciate the greatness that's happening while really enjoying the midfield behind him, because it's so inevitable. The graphic is right. Eternal P1. We are witnessing greatness in real time with that car and with that driver. But I'm just happy that things are happening outside of that are actually watchable and exciting.
Yes, because otherwise it would be a snooze fest of a season. We have nothing to talk about. To answer your question, Sean, Baku, he finished P2 to Sergio Perez.
Oh, yeah.
Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, P2 to Sergio Perez. And I want to say that is it. So it has happened. Not often. There are other reasons to watch, though. But before we move on, I feel like we have to stay on Max for a second. Because Max and his engineer are not getting along.
That was so funny.
I mean, talk about a couple quarreling over the radio. Hello. Work these things. Do we need to go to couples therapy here, guys?
I think honestly they're doing it I think this is like scripted. I think they're doing it just for laughs and just to give the audience at home some kind of, because if they didn't have that radio communication, would we even see Max Verstappen on camera at all?
Never.
After lap 10? No. You would have 34 laps of a race where you did not see the lead car because he was so far ahead of everyone else just driving.
He was so cheeky. That was one of my favorite part of the race, is just watching them go back and forth and how sassy they both were with each other. I think they're so comfortable with each other. I think there's so much mutual respect. I think they're just taking it all for a walk. Like, everybody knows they're winning.
Yeah.
They're so far ahead that it was kind of cool, though, because there's a lot of discourse right now about, oh, Max is so bored and he wants to retire. And I've heard a lot of that, but it is cool seeing Max like truly give a shit sometimes when he doesn't really need to, when he's like, well, what's Checo doing? And he wants the fastest lap. So for me, part of that, I'm like, okay, Max, we see you still trying when you virtually don't have to whatsoever.
I agree. It is fun to see him like still caring that much, because he's talked about like, I'm not going to be an F1 forever if I keep winning.
Yeah.
And yet you care that much that you still have to outdrive everyone. I mean, he really wants to prove a point. He's proving a point. I think it's actually more serious than people realize, just because of the tone at which GP was talking about, where he was like, oh, and what would you have liked if you'd burned your tires up in the outlap and drained the battery and you had no battery left at the end of it? Like, what do you think then when they were in qualifying? How would have that gone? But, you give me your thoughts, because we're into Q3, but, just let me know what you think. We'll see what happens. Like, there was a little bit of toxicity there.
I think it's also because, these are all Europeans, and so it's not language barriers because they all speak fluent English, but it's like in different cultures those tones don't translate over, you know what I mean? But sarcasm, I still feel like, because there's English sarcasm versus American sarcasm versus Dutch sarcasm, like they're all completely different.
That's true. Yeah, maybe it's lost in translation. Logan says, Max yelling about the wind was pre-recorded. I'm convinced it was pre-recorded. I get it.
Yelling about the wind.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and I also need to correct myself in reading these qualifying because of what Logan chimed in as well. Miami also was a qualifying in which Max Verstappen did not finish P1. It was Sergio Perez, P1,
that's right.
Fernando Alonso, P2. Max was 9th. So that counted. And I also got Baku wrong. Right. It was Charles Leclerc was P1 in Baku and Max was 2. I was reading race results, not qualifying results. So, all right. Let's see. Any topics left that we have to clean up here on F1? Let's talk about a change at Alpine, a team that is not living up. Did they have expectations? I feel like they didn't have expectations.
Yeah, they did. They did from last season. They were fighting for like 3rd and 4th last season.
Yeah,
they had. They had Fernando last year.
Yeah, but they expected to be fighting for 4th place. And there was all that talk about how, well, since Oscar signed with McLaren, we got Pierre Gasly, and I'd rather have Pierre Gasly than Oscar Piastri. How's that working out for you, Otmar? Oh,
yeah. Oh, well,
can we read the quote from Otmar?
Sure, go for it. I have no idea what this is in reference to, by the way. I had not heard this.
So basically saying that he was
Otmar
let go.
Fired, first off.
Otmar got fired, and he was let go way sooner than he would have any time to be able to kind of put his stamp on things. But his quote was, I always say, you can't get 9 women pregnant and hope you have a baby in a month.
Okay, so that plays. But what do you mean you always say? Like, is that your wife's like, hey, did you take the trash out? Well, honey, I can get 9 women pregnant, but I can't,
Hey, Otmar,
baby.
You know what I always say?
Otmar, did you see this email? Well, you can get 9 women pregnant, but you can't have a baby in a month. That's great. I didn't ask. Have you seen the email?
I want to start saying, well, I always say before really obscure things that I rarely say.
Yeah, like exactly. The only way it's applicable in my mind, straight off the top of my head, is, Hey, how's the lawn coming along this summer? Well, I say you can get 9 women pregnant, but you can't always expect.
I tell you what, I say you can teach a wrench how to screw, but you can't teach a screw how to drive.
I have heard you say that many times.
So many
Turby
times.
Ducky.
I have it on. I have it tattooed on my back.
Full back piece.
Doesn't even listen since the beginning. You know what we're talking about. That means Big B. This is your time to chime in the comments.
That's a treat for the homies only.
I don't have a take on this. I think that they sucked, and I'll tell you what. I'll be happy he's off Drive to Survive because I don't like his personality at all. Oh my God.
I like him. I cheer for that little weirdo. They also let go of Chief Technical Officer Pat Fry, which is kind of a big deal. I think that's kind of flying under the radar. He's moving to Williams.
Yes.
That guy has a ton of experience. He's worked for McLaren, Ferrari, Renault, now Alpine, but Alpine just feels like such a mess. Like whether they're letting people go or if people are walking, like Fernando left, Daniel left, Oscar very clearly did not want to drive for them. He made that deeply clear. But I have heard rumors of Mattia Binotto, which would...
I have also heard those rumors.
How is that going to make it any better?
Exactly, that's my question. You're going from Otmar, who...
At screwing everything up.
Yeah, no. As a team principal, as a chief technical officer, sure, Mattia was great, but as a team principal, no, Ferrari did not get better under his watch.
Cross sport comparison: Alpine, the Cleveland Browns of F1.
No, that's not fair. They're not that bad.
Yes, thank you, Sean. That's what I was hoping for. That's what we do here on the Gridiron Podcast. We bridge football and Formula One. Final point of the day. Katie, you have something to say about Mr. AlphaTauri driver.
I identify as the Prime Minister of the Yuki Tsunoda fan club. That's what I have to say. Have you guys ever seen the meme of the guy on the podium celebrating and popping champagne and he's like flipping everyone off? And then it shows the zoomed out version and they're 10th place on the podium. That perfectly sums up how I feel whenever Yuki's in the points. It's just, that's my Super Bowl whenever he gets a point. I think he had a brilliant race. He was super aggressive. I love how it was Pierre Gasly that he overtook to get into the points. But I'm just such a fan of Yuki. I think he's driving so well and I love him more every week. He also said that he can finally have a Negroni for the first time in a few months. It's his routine. It's his young. Yeah, it's his routine little treat when he finishes in the points. Just a little treat.
Now it's legal. No, I'm just kidding. He is super young. What is he like?
Isn't that a funny the points make me?
I can't wait to have a super bitter aperitif. Okay, that's what you want, Yuki. Cool.
I want a mint julep after I win. All right.
Real quick, if you finish in the points, Katie, what would you have?
Double spicy margarita.
Oh,
okay. Nick?
I love a margarita.
This is really tapping into my inability to speak today, and secondly, my wide range of drinks and my lack of decisiveness. Old fashioned from Bigfoot West on Venice Boulevard in LA.
I would also have an old fashioned, but I would want it with some Eagle Rare,
Ooh.
And just nice smoked old fashioned with some Eagle Rare. I would do that. Blanton's if you had it, but a good old
Angel's
fashioned.
Envy. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't like Angel's Envy.
I know, to each his own. All right, that wraps up F1 for us. Now we get to our final segment of the day. Hate it or love it. What's your hate, guys? Let's direct it to Katie first, since she's back.
Yeah, go Katie.
This is actually a moment I just put in the group. This is actually a moment where I have to run. So I'm excited to hear the segment after, but I have to head out. I've reached my time limit.
Well, I hate that you're leaving. I'm just kidding.
She hates this podcast so much she's leaving.
Okay, well, goodbye,
what a
Katie.
pleasure.
Thank you for being
Goodbye.
here.
Adieu.
This is
Farewell.
a little awkward, but
I'll
we'll fight through it.
It's okay.
And we
I did give you guys a heads up that I might have to dip out a little early today.
No, don't. You don't have to explain yourself. Don't explain yourself.
The time that we had. If you want to give me a proper goodbye send off, 5 stars, rate and review, all the hits. Okay, friends. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Sean. Until next time.
So long.
Magnificent. Goodbye, Katie.
Tell Carl I said hi.
Okay.
Godspeed. All right. Well, I'm gonna just
go for it, man. Go.
I had a hate.
I got a hate. It is when the feels like temperature before noon is already 100. Have you ever been outside working, Nick? And you're not even really doing manual labor. You're kind of just standing still, not doing anything. And you are still sweating through every piece of clothing you have on. That was me this morning. I was shooting a piece on a soccer player titled "Fuck Cancer." So I had a fun time shooting that story. But I'm just standing there, just getting video of this soccer player, Tampa Bay Rowdies player. And I was sweating through my shirt. I was sweating, like, I just got a shower an hour before, and I'm like, I have to go home and get another shower. This is absurd. I was sweating so much just standing there. And I was wearing shorts. I was wearing light clothing. I was wearing golf shorts and a golf polo. I wasn't wearing cottons. I was trying to keep myself cool, but there was absolutely no cloud cover. And it felt so disgusting to be just there sweating beads. And so I looked down. Moral of the story, I looked down at my Weather Channel app, and it said it was 10:15 in the morning. Feels like 100. I was like, it's insane. It's just insane. So I hate when you can't escape that heat. I've reached that part of summer here in Tampa.
My favorite part about that was I wasn't wearing cottons. Like it's,
nothing was sticking to me, but everything was just still soaked.
Yeah. Well, Sean, sorry. I don't usually clap back at a hate. We just kind of move on from one to the next. But you chose to live in Florida. So that is the cross, that sweaty, sticky cross that you bear, my friend. I do understand what you're talking about, though. And it's quite uncomfortable, especially August, hottest month of the season, man. We just started it. You better get ready to take multiple showers.
Wait for September and October. It's even worse.
Well, I don't live there, so I don't have those problems.
And there's hurricanes.
It just gets better. I can't believe you willingly chose to live there. Logan chimes in, says Sean and Shook podcast is back. Hey,
let's go, baby. Change the logo.
TBT. Oh wait, I can actually. If I can do it really quickly here, unless I deleted it. Nope. All right, it's Sean.
Yeah, it's back. Hold on.
I'm just kidding.
Wait, change it back.
No, now it's change it back again.
Sending a picture to Katie.
This is gonna sound great for audio listeners. What's happening right now for those of you listening on audio format later is I've changed the logo in the corner to our old podcast logo, which is the Sean and Shook podcast, featuring a black and white depiction of our old photo from when we went to Happy Valley College. All right, back to the Gridiron podcast. So back to hate or love it. My hate. I'm him. He is him. Himmy Neutron. That sucks.
You don't like that?
Okay. I hate it. It's grammatically incorrect. I am not him. I am a guy. Okay. And it's annoying because
a man.
When Odell said it, it worked. It worked for him. It doesn't work for everybody. Okay. And that's the number one thing people have been using to describe things in sports on Twitter, social media. Social media has dumbed us down so much, but especially with
I feel like I'm going to incorporate that phrase into this podcast more.
I told my coworkers this months ago, and anytime somebody tweets something, he is him, himothy, whatever, they always send it to me in Slack every day. I got
what did I do? I forget what the video I tweeted out was, but our intern said that's Riz. I'm like, I don't know what that means, dude.
Oh no.
I'm only 31. Like I got no idea what you're saying. You're 21. I got no idea what you're saying there, dude. See, I'm officially old. That's fine, but
this is why I'm glad my little sister moved to Cleveland and we spend time together because she's 23, so she keeps me up to date on these things. So like spending time with them keeps me like in the loop on some of these things.
Yeah.
Or I have to ask for an explanation, but I mean, at least I'm privy to the knowledge. Having said that, there's a lot of music today that I'm like, I don't know what this is. What's your love, Sean?
My love is I got to spend the weekend with my family, just the four of us. Erin was unfortunately sick, so she couldn't come. But I got to go back to Bethany Beach, Delaware, a place that was near and dear to my heart because I grew up going to the beach there usually every summer, sometimes not. But Ocean City, Maryland, yeah, Dewey Beach, Fenwick Island, Bethany Beach. I kind of just grew up there. We'd always go there like 1 week in the summer, and so it was cool. 7 years ago, my parents bought a house there. I'd only been once, and that was 5 years ago. So I was kind of interested to see how things have changed because things down here in Florida with tourism, they change by the week. It seems like there's a new high-rise apartment complex, tourism destination built every week. I'm not kidding you, Nick. When I got there this weekend, except for a couple of extra Starbucks, there was nothing different about this place. And it was kind of nice to see that time and tourism has not affected everything. This part of the Atlantic coast is very much, you get what you get. It's boardwalks and beaches. Like that's what you get. It's very old school. I walked to the Bethany Beach boardwalk and we got, old school fresh cut fries. And it was a blast from the past. And it made me feel like I was kind of, like a kid again, because I got to relive all those memories because all those places I went to as a kid are still standing. And that was really cool to see.
Boardwalks and beaches. That's what Delaware does. I agree, Sean. I like it.
I relived that story of I told Aaron about this, my girlfriend. I was like, Nick and I once walked about 60 city blocks in Ocean City, Maryland one time because we couldn't find the bus, but we finally found it.
Well, we couldn't find the bus and we were not old enough to go to the bar, so we didn't have much else to do but buy Black and Milds and walk the boardwalk. That was that.
What a night.
What a night. And it was just as sticky and hot as you described earlier. And we had a great time. I actually had a similar experience in LA when I was out there for work, like a week and a half ago. I was looking around and I was like, okay, that's a new building, but a lot of this is still the same. My old apartment building was still the same. It was interesting to see that not that much had changed when you see it too often everywhere else. My love is, despite the fact that she's gone, Katie's back, which ties right in with Big B's hate and love, which is Katie leaving early is his hate and love that she's back this week. I agree, Big B. I love that she's back. I'm glad that
Big B, you're a real one.
You
are him. Big B is him.
God damn it. God damn
That's the perfect
Sean.
way to end this.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the show, everybody. Episode 11 of the Gridiron Podcast. I'm Nick Shook. That was Katie Caldwell. Special thanks to Gregg Rosenthal for joining us. And that's Sean Barie, who's going to send us out with the catchphrase if he can remember it.
As always, for Nick Shook, Gregg Rosenthal, and Katie Caldwell, I'm Sean Barie. Thank you for listening to the Gridiron Podcast. And as always, live life in the fast lane, folks.